Hello, this is Matt Hardy. I'm the Director of Programs and Social Enterprise here at Columbia Business School. I'm joined by my colleague, Serena Marin-Kolich. And thank you for joining our webinar today, which is our info session for the Senior Leaders Program for Nonprofit Professionals. So we're going to quickly jump right into this. The first thing we'd like to talk about is our agenda for the webinar. And the first topic we're going to be talking about is SLP, the right program for you. We'll go into the program format, the three main assignments and program outcomes, the application requirements and tips, and then we'll leave some time at the end for questions and answers. You can populate your questions into the chat function and the Q&A, and we'll be sure to get to as many as we can by the end of the webinar, but you can start to post them throughout as the ideas and questions come to you. So first off, when participants are considering applying for the Senior Leaders Program, we'll also call it SLP, they're trying to decide if it's the right fit for their current role responsibilities at their nonprofit organization. Again, the key issues here that you're a full-time nonprofit staffer, you're on the senior leadership team, and or you are the president, executive director, CEO. It's really the answer to these two questions. Are you responsible for the mission and strategy of the organization? Do you have a seat at the table when the team is discussing not just the current state, but the future state of your organization? What is the mission? What is the strategy? How do we get from here to there? If you're involved in those types of conversations and you're influencing the mission and strategy, either directly or indirectly, then it's the right fit. We like to expand the pool of potential participants beyond just presidents, CEOs, executive directors. It could be the one step down for senior team members, head of program, development director, COO, senior staff, however you define them, given your titles, is how we look at coming up with a cohort for SLP. And the second point here really we've covered. Are you a member of the organization's senior leadership team? Organizational size. We also have broad diversity in terms of organizational mission, type, scope of service organizations. There could be operating budgets of under $1 million where they have, maybe a half a dozen full-time staff and numerous volunteers that are rounding out program service or delivery, to multi-site national or even international nonprofits, NGOs that are providing services in a variety of different locations. If you think of here in New York City, the settlement houses, that they're serving everything from children to seniors and everything in between, to some that are providing very direct, specialized and tailored services. We, again, look for that diversity, not just in terms of title and function of our participants, but other organizations. We like to have a variety of institutional types, organizations, missions, scope of service, and that I think we really learn a lot from each other when we have that type of diversity in the cohort. From that, Serena's going to quickly talk about the program format, so you can get a sense as to what a typical day in SLP is like. Serena?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. As Matt mentioned, I'll be discussing the program format for SLP. So as you may know, the program takes place 1 week each month for 4 months. In 2018, it will take place between January and April. And as you can see here, this is the typical schedule for the day. Typical SLP days begin at around 8 o'clock with breakfast, optional for you to arrive at 8, a little bit after. Then we launch into our morning sessions at around 9 a.m. We break for lunch at noon. And then we have our afternoon session from 1 to 4, followed by closing activities, specifically reflection activities at the end of the day from 4 to 4:30. You'll see our little asterisk there saying that some events may end after 4:30, and that's because we sometimes have academic or social events after 4:30 p.m., but we'll certainly let you know if the day will extend past 4:30. Additionally, the morning and afternoon sessions take the format of faculty-led sessions through Columbia Business School and other Columbia University faculty, sessions led by leading practitioners in the field in more functional topic areas. And then we also rely very heavily on the peer learning process, which Matt mentioned earlier, involves leveraging the many diverse voices in the room. Happy to answer any questions you have about the format, and Matt's going to jump into the 3 main assignments and the program outcomes.
And just quickly to tack on to what Serena just mentioned around the program format, it's immersive and full-time by design. Each week it's an immersion model. It's modeled through our block week and our executive MBA program. We recognize it's a major time commitment, and that the expectation is that all participants attend each session for each week, so that's a full commitment to all 4 weeks and all sessions within those days. And I think a benefit is that you're fully out of the office, and that you're fully focusing on your own development and your own capacity as a leader and manager of a nonprofit organization. And we think we can accomplish that by having a full-time immersion model for the course, which is modular by design. That brings us to one of our main assignments for the course, which runs the duration of all 4 weeks, and that is called the Organizational Impact Plan. The OIP is essentially a personal case that each participant drafts as on a current leadership or management challenge. And they will work with the same team of small peers. Typically a team is 6 people on your challenge. You will receive peer coaching and peer feedback on how you've articulated the challenge. What have you tried? What's your approach? And also hold you accountable to, are you making progress on your challenge throughout the program? Given that our program runs 1 week per month for 4 months, you will define your case in week 1, and then in week 2, which will be in February, you will receive peer coaching on your case. Each of your team members will read your case, they'll provide you peer coaching and peer feedback on your challenge. By month in week 3 in March, the expectation is that you're able to report to your team members on the progress you've made. What content have you applied to your challenge? How have you translated the information provided by our faculty to your local environment? How have you been able to push the issue forward? And what challenges remain? Again, another peer coaching session on implementation and accountability of your challenge that you articulated back in January. By April, this is kind of a twofold. You're reflecting on your experience over the previous 3 months, and then what is your plan after SLP ends? In most instances, the OIP is not solved by April, and that the challenge either has evolved or continues to be present. And how will you continue to address that? And I just met with a SLP alum from 2017 just on Monday, and he said his OIP group still is meeting to this day to discuss their challenges and provide peer support around these key leadership and management challenges. So the OIP really is a living case that you will receive peer coaching and feedback on that will be invaluable as you address a current challenge. The second is a 360 assessment, which is a very common leadership and management assessment survey. You will receive an aggregated report of feedback from your supervisor, colleagues, and direct reports across roughly 60 different behaviors of leadership and management competencies that's been developed here and designed at Columbia Business School and Teachers College. And you will receive executive coaching twice in the program. We hire a host of executive coaches that will help you dissect the feedback and then come up with a plan for implementation once you return to the office. The last piece here is the Leadership Credo, which is essentially a culminating exercise where you articulate a powerful leadership message. After this 4 weeks and 4 months of experience and training, how do you craft a powerful leadership message to an audience where you want to perhaps increase your funding dollars or move your board in a new direction or motivate your staff? We see our participants use the Credo in a variety of ways that they can really drive an issue or their agenda forward in a way that is a kind of a culmination of their experience over the 4 months. And again, you will receive peer coaching on how to refine that message, as well as content from one of our faculty around best practices in communication and delivering on your message. These are the 3 main assignments for the course, the OIP, the 360, and the Leadership Credo. And as I hopefully have conveyed, we embed a lot of time and opportunities for peer learning, peer coaching, these exchange not only of best practice, but of exchange of challenges and how to come up with potential new solutions to those issues. These are embedded and very much the core of the Senior Leaders Program, and we try to do our best to facilitate that type of exchange across roughly 45 nonprofit leaders from across New York City, across the country, and in many cases from around the world.
And Matt, I'll just add here that each of these key assignments are opportunities for all of the SLP participants to apply their learning in real time. So in addition to attending sessions on leadership, management, strategy, budgeting and finance development, all of these different topics, you would have an opportunity to then apply the learning from those sessions to your organizational impact plan, to help use some of the content to figure out how do I best leverage the feedback from my 360 assessment, or to really help you distill down your core values as a leader and really distill down your vision for the organization in your leadership credo. Moving on to the next piece, we often get asked about application requirements and tips. So the first thing that we encourage you to do if you're thinking about applying to SLP is to email us. Let us know that you're thinking about the program, that you intend to submit an application. You'll see our contact information is at the end of this presentation, and we encourage you to call or email us at any time. The application can be completed online. The SLP due date is October 12th, so it is coming right up. It's a pretty straightforward application. You are asked to do it in one sitting, so we encourage you to have all of your information ready when you are applying. The first portion of the application is some simple demographic information about you and your organization. We ask that you submit an updated resume that indicates your current and recent professional experience. And then we also ask for a personal statement. It's a short personal statement, about 250 words. We ask that you tell us about why you're interested in attending the program and what you hope to accomplish by being an SLP participant. The last piece of the application is if you are applying for tuition assistance, we ask that you please note this on your application. There is a segment of the application featured here. And we ask that you also include a copy of your 990. That will help us determine if you qualify for needs-based tuition assistance. So that's all that we have on application requirements and tips. And now we'd love to take some questions that you all have for us about the program, the application, and anything we might not have covered yet.
So feel free to plug in questions here in the chat box. I see folks have put in tests, and yes, I can see your questions. They're not broadcasted to the entire cohort, so if you have a question, please submit it now. You know, I think, and this is a good question. How competitive is it to be admitted to the Senior Leaders Program? I think before and earlier I mentioned that the cohort is around 45 people, and there is a cap to the number of participants that we admit and enroll to SLP. And certainly the number of applications do exceed the number of slots we have. And from our perspective, we're really trying to get, as I mentioned before, a diverse mix of individuals, organizational types, missions, size of organizations and budgets. We're trying to create an environment where the amount of learning that can occur across participants is extremely rich and deep. And I think that with that being said, it's becoming increasingly competitive. It's also competitive for tuition assistance. So in some cases, folks are admitted, but they're unfunded, and they have to make a difficult decision around their attendance because they're both limited supply of funds for assistance and a limited supply of seats. So as you might imagine, it's becoming increasingly competitive to attend the program, but our primary focus is to really admit and create a class that is diverse in a variety of ways. So a person asked, and this is an interesting question. We recognize a lot of folks are in transition as an ED of a nonprofit. Must they be currently affiliated with a nonprofit to apply? And Serena, you can add in your initial take on this as well. We often, because of a number of the assignments for the OIP, the Organizational Impact Plan, or the 360, if you're not currently affiliated with an organization, it could be very difficult to complete those assignments. that would be it. Maybe we should have an offline conversation around where you are in terms of your career and in this transition. But my first response would be, and Serena, please chime in, is that because of the assignments and the way that they're structured, if you're not currently at organization, they'd be very difficult to complete.
And we had another question around potentially transitioning between organizations at, during the time of the program. And again, that's the sort of situation where we would encourage you to contact us and we can have a discussion about whether this might be the appropriate time for you to attend SLP. We certainly have had folks who have been in transition in the past, but again, as Matt mentioned, it certainly influences the topic selection that you might have for the OIP process, as well as the raters that you would be able to use for your 360. We had another question here about the assignments and topic selection. So I imagine that this is probably referring specifically to the organizational impact plan. And the way that topic selection works is that in advance of the program, you would have a conversation with either Matt or myself to help you think through what are some salient, top of mind organizational challenges that you're facing. We ask you to answer the question, what's keeping you up at night? And we really think about what is within your scope of influence. We then have you let us know who you'd like to be in a group with. We give you an opportunity to tell us about your preferences for group names. And then we assign you to a group of 5 or 6 peers, where you would have your first meeting and you discuss some of the issues that you're facing, and then your team would help you figure out what is the topic of your OIP. It is highly individualized and there is no right question, so topics aren't mandatory. We really encourage you to tailor the OIP process as well as the leadership credo to your current role and organization.
Right, exactly. You define the topics for your OIP and your leadership credo, but in order to successfully complete the program, you have to complete these 3 assignments. And that would be the organizational impact plan, the 360, and the leadership credo. There's one question here, if you could scroll down, Serena, to the bottom. There's a question around the external environment and changing and uncertainty in the external environment here in the United States, and for others this might be abroad, and how there's been shifts in the political landscape and what that may mean for the nonprofit sector and the programs and services that are provided and typically funded by government that are then routed through nonprofit agencies to provide direct services to different populations. This is an issue that we also are thinking about and have been thinking about within the curriculum. How do leaders lead in times of uncertainty and potentially a challenging external environment? Again, I think this is an opportunity to really lean on the peer network within the cohort and how other agencies that we also hear from our alums are responding to shifts in the external environment and in the political environment, and what now they view their new mission is, or their mission has evolved, or how do they manage that change. I think it's really a place for nonprofit leaders to convene and to discuss those types of challenges and what their approaches have been around shifts in the external environment. And I think it's a great opportunity for an OIP, for a leadership credo, and also to really take advantage of the network and peer learning that occurs in the program. As well as we've been thinking about bringing in faculty with expertise within the broader areas of leading in uncertain times or advocacy or other areas where we think that this is going to be really current challenges and issues facing nonprofit leaders today. Second question is for board members. If you are a current board member of a nonprofit, it could be appropriate for you to attend SLP. Typically, it's the folks that are either running or leading the organizations from the staff side as opposed to the board side. But governance is certainly a topic that we're covering in a variety of ways in the program, whether it's peer learning, OIPs, or formal presentations by faculty. But I think that if you are a current board member and are thinking about the Senior Leaders Program, we should have an offline conversation to discuss if it could be the right fit.
And there's another question here about potential job changes affecting the application and tuition assistance process. And as we mentioned earlier, this is a great example of a time where you should feel free to contact us. We're happy to have a specific conversation, but the majority of tuition assistance is based upon the operating budget of the organization that you are in during the time of the application, the operating budget of the organization that will be funding your enrollment. Again, we're happy to chat about how much tuition assistance you are eligible for the 2018 program.
I've asked about kind of academic requirements. So for the course, it is not, there are no academic requirements for the course. So whether you have an undergraduate degree, a master's degree, those are not requirements for the course. We look at experience and personal statement. And for us, when we think about the mix of participants who will be in the room, it's less based upon their academic credentials as opposed to their experience and their history within the sector. Some folks might be new to the sector and they've transitioned from the for-profit sector or the legal sector, and now they're coming into the nonprofit side of the economy, and they're looking to use SLP with that transition. If you're in that position, I do think a one-on-one conversation makes a lot of sense. It could be the right time if you are making that transition, and this could be the opportunity in which you start to build your nonprofit network if you don't have much of one coming out of the for-profit background. But you do need to be within your nonprofit agency in order to be accepted. It's not, I think some folks try to use it as an instance then to make the transition into the sector. You should already have your feet planted within the nonprofit sector if you're transitioning from the for-profit to nonprofit sectors before you would take the course. You know, one thing I think that makes, this is a question about the Senior Leaders Program within the larger offerings of nonprofit leadership development courses. I think the one thing that truly makes, or a few things that make SLP unique in comparison to other leadership development programs offered by peer schools or other entities that are in the leadership development business, is that we're at the cross section of university faculty that have research-based best practices in their areas of expertise, and they're bringing those findings. They're bringing those best practices that go beyond just one person's level of experience, but it's researching around things like change management, researching around human behavior and negotiations, and bringing those research-based findings to an audience that may not have access or the interest or time to go back for a graduate level degree. We're at the intersection of really cutting edge faculty with leading practitioners from the nonprofit sector. And there's this exchange of the research-based findings with the applicability and how to apply these findings to these unique missions or unique environments that are working with unique communities. And the exchange of information and ideas and best practice and challenge that occurs within SLP, I think is truly unique because we're bringing university faculty and leading practitioners together in a modular way. So we're learning together and growing together over time. We're starting in January, ending in April. I don't see that many non-degree professional development courses that span that amount of time in such an intense way, 1 week per week, 1 week per month for 4 months. I don't see a lot of other, at least business schools or other providers going this deep in terms of the content and linking it with faculty, but also peer learning throughout the duration of the course. I think that's something that's truly unique about the program. Serena, if you want to add anything else or answer any additional questions that are coming in.
Sure, I would just add to what Matt was just talking about in terms of other development programs in sort of the nonprofit sector. I think one of the things that sets us apart is really our focus on leadership and management at the highest levels of the organization. So really thinking about what are the key skills that you need as a leader to be able to effectively drive change at the top of your organization. I think many other programs focus a lot more on functional skills, so they might do a deeper dive into fundraising and development or a deeper dive into budgeting, more of the sort of technical elements. And while we do cover some of those components, the majority of the sessions that we lead are focused on managerial and leadership-based topics. One other question that we've received here is about what program fees cover. So the program fee covers your attendance in the program, as well as breakfast, lunch, and daily snacks. We feed you well at SLP. And this does not cover accommodations or transportation. So if you are coming from outside of New York City, we encourage you to reach out to us, and we're happy to send you a list of area hotels that are accessible to the Columbia campus. And certainly, as we discussed earlier, we can talk on a one-on-one basis about available tuition assistance.
Those fees also include all program materials, so all of your readings, cases that would be pre-readings for sessions in terms of the workload. Most sessions will have some form of pre-reading in order to prepare for the discussion, and those are all included within the program fee. There's no expectation that you purchase extra textbooks or other costs that are directly related to the program in addition to the tuition. So those are all included within the fees as well. I just wanted to note that most sessions also have pre-readings in order to prepare for that session, in addition to the three main topics that we mentioned, three main assignments we mentioned earlier, which is the OIP, the Leadership Credo, and the 360 survey.
So we'll leave you here with our contact information. You have our phone numbers as well as our email addresses. We encourage you to reach out to us with any questions. We're happy to schedule a chat with you or someone else within your organization to discuss the program in more depth, the application process, and any available tuition assistance. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to being in touch again soon.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.